Hey folks, how are you? How's it going? Let me just say praise the Lord, everybody. Listen, I'm excited that we are here one more time, one more again. As we wrap this thing up, I really, really hope that you've been blessed the last few weeks as we have tackled our seasons and cycle series. I hope it's set something to you, spoken something to you. I hope you've been able to measure yourself, measure your life, measure your journey in and through this season that you're in, so that the next season you are well equipped, you're not ill prepared, you are ready. So again, I'm glad you're here. If this is your first time here, let me just say welcome. Welcome to you. If you would, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the follow button, whatever platform you are catching our TNL tonight. I want to make sure that you get to be reminded regularly when there is not only a new word, but also just even some fresh content for you and your journey. So again, glad that you're here. If you're back again, real big shout out to you. And with that, listen, we're going to jump in. We're going to dive in all month long. We have been in focus of, we've been in pursuit of better understanding the season that we're in. And I just believe that when you understand the season that you're in, you understand how to end the cycle that you're in. I'm going to say it again. When you understand the season that you are in, you can better understand the cycle that you are in as well. So we've been in this series this entire time, and I want us to continue on and putting on the bells and whistles tonight of our seasons and cycles series. And I want to just say this because it's always bittersweet whenever we are ending a series. And it isn't because the word, the content, the message is outdated, but simply God is steady pouring out new oil. God is steady pouring out new wine. And so my hope is that you don't just come when the Bible talks about this, getting your ears tickled. The Bible talks about this, about the type of folks, the type of so-called believers, the type of so-called Christians, the type of so-called Jesus seekers. When on the surface it sounds good, looks good, feels good, it even passes the smell test, but really they the type of folks that listen. They just like their ears itched. So my goal for you tonight is that we don't just show up on Sunday, listen to a stream, walk in a church service, or even listen throughout the week to a podcast or a Bible study or some other biblical content. But the goal is that you will be able to hide these words in your heart. And I don't know about you, but the one way to hide stuff in my heart is to write it by hand. You want to hide it in your heart, write it by hand. So again, just shout out to the folks that will that'll hit me up, wanting sermon notes, or folks that are kind of taking pictures, writing stuff down. I promise there will be moments in your life. There will be, if not this season, there will be another season in your life that you'll be able to pause, reflect, and look back on what it is that the Lord had pressed upon your heart in seasons prior. Don't miss this, because what you experience, what you gather in one season, is often a determinant for how you show up, the outpour and even the harvest of what you reap in another. So again, don't just let your ears be tickled. Don't just let your ears be itched just for a little bit. In that, hey, I came, I heard what I needed. Now I got enough of a dopamine rush. I got enough of a hit. I got enough that it feels good. I got enough that, listen, my soul ain't satisfied, but I've got this temporary satisfaction. I promise you, you'll be hungry again. You'll be thirsty again. The word of the Lord declares to hide the words in your heart. So again, my prayer is that this series, as well as other series, isn't just this wealth of information, But I pray that in and through this, there is also not only information for you, but I also pray that there is also application for you. What good is you receiving information and no one told you how to apply the information that you receive? Let's go. We said this is the wrap up. I digress because I could get on over there and stay. Listen, there's been something powerful. There has been something poignant. There has been something mystical. There's been something, forgive me, magical. There's been something really anointed about this series, Seasons and Cycles. The goal for us, the role for us has been to, one, understand the season that we're in, two, get the tools necessary for how to respond to the season that we're in and or face. The reality is every season that we will enter, every season that we will walk through, every season that we will encounter will not always be a good season. It will not always be a positive season. It will not always be a harvest season. And so really most poignantly, most importantly, most essentially for us is how do we respond, particularly in a dark season. We've been rolling out the literal seasons this entire series. I hope you didn't miss that. I hope you didn't miss the spiritual implications that were tied to winter season and what a winter season feels like. I hope you didn't miss the spiritual implications of what a spring season looks like, even for the life of the believer spiritually. That the same way we see the manifestation of God's creation in literal seasons through winter, summer, spring, and fall. Hear me tonight. God, God's seasons in our lives very much so mirror winter, summer, spring, and fall. I don't want you to miss that. I don't want you to miss that. So you may need to take a little bit of a step back and look at perhaps the season that you're in. Maybe it may feel like wilderness. Maybe it may feel like your growing season. I know for me right now, it's pruning season where God is beginning to prune some things. God is pruning some things in me. God is pruning some things around me. God is purging things, places, people, habits, all of that when it is pruning season. And then, of course, you've got harvest season, which is the one season that we all love. Who don't love a good harvest season when you reaping everything that you have sown? Your tears, your seeds, your sacrifices, all those things, you begin to see the payoff in harvest season. But, however, there is some character that shapes us when we encounter particularly uncomfortable seasons. So we've spent time talking about seasons as a whole, the good seasons, the bad seasons, the happy seasons, the sad seasons. I want to spend the next few moments as we are wrapping up our seasons and cycle series, particularly getting us geared, getting us prepared for how do we handle the dark seasons? How do we handle the uncomfortable seasons, right? And hear me tonight, because I want you to know that there are characteristics that God brings about in and through us, particularly dependent upon and contingent upon the season that we're in. So I know I just said a whole mouthful there. Let me bring that down so that all of us can understand. God does his best work in us in the uncomfortable seasons in our lives. Mm. God does his best work in us in some of the darkest seasons that we face in our lives. As radical as I am, as radical and inclusive as I believe God is, one thing that is a truth and a reality for us all, we get some of God's best gifts from some of our worst seasons. Character is not often produced in a good, comfortable season. Character is often produced in the seasons that are most dark and uncomfortable. Here's the thing: God will not bring about a change in us in the season that God needs to push us and produce something in us. So, what am I saying? In other words, it's in the dark seasons, it's in the wilderness season, it's in the pruning season that God does God's best work, that God does God's character building, so that we have the character, we have the stamina, we have what we need when God brings us to a season of harvest. So God won't do character building in your harvest season. That's not to say that God can't, that's not to say that God won't. But God is a God of preparation. And so God will prepare us before God elevates us. God is a God of preparation prior to elevation. So we won't be elevated and then groomed for the place, space, and capacity in which God needs us to operate. No, we'll be prepared here. We'll be groomed here. We'll be nursed here. We'll be disciplined here. We'll receive structure here. So that way, when the promotion, when the elevation comes, we're fully prepared. I'm not going to put you in a place and then prepare you for that place. No, I'm going to prepare you for that place before I put you in that place. And so character often comes before elevation and promotion. So again, they're characteristics that God needs us to get, they're lessons that God needs us to learn. They are testimonies, they are tests that are attached to our testimonies that God needs us to be tested for and pass, to produce in us now the character that makes us equipped, that makes us qualified, that makes us ready for when God takes us to the next level, in our purpose and in our destiny. Here's what I want to give you tonight. Characteristics of life's seasons. Number one, seasons are cyclical. Seasons are cyclical. Cyclical, the root word of that is cycle. Um, so something that continues, something that doesn't end, that's a cycle. Okay. It goes on. But the thing about a season and a season being cyclical, it isn't that a particular season continues a cycle. However, the seasons that we experience are cyclical, and that we may end one season only to enter into another season, only to enter into another season, only to enter into another season that then felt like a former season. Seasons are cyclical. And so, just as there is a time to plant, we used Ecclesiastes chapter 3, right, as our base text for our whole series. And so, just as there's a time to plant and there's a time to pluck what has been planted, life has seasons and periods now that require a beginning and require an ending, right? There's usually a season, of education for a young person where they've started pre-K, kindergarten, first grade, second grade. You get the idea. Then they get through 12th. That season now of grade of grade school education, that season now ends, and then now there's now another season that comes in, which is you're now entering into the season of adulthood. So whether you decide to pursue some higher level education, or you decide to go and pursue a trade or a business venture or pursue your entrepreneurial endeavors, that's now entering another season. But seasons are predicated now upon one season ending and another season beginning. However, throughout life, you may experience similar seasons. Seasons are cyclical. Number two, seasons are purposeful. Every single season that we face, every single season that you will ever encounter has a purpose and a plan for your life. And one of the things that a purposeful season does is a purposeful season develops character. We just talked about the necessary commodity of having character. Character can take you places, charm cannot. Character can take you places having culture can't take you. Character can take you places that cuteness can't take you. Character can take you places that cute, charm, wit, all of that can't keep you. And I don't know about you in this season of your life, but I know as for me and what I am looking for God to do in my life, I don't need God to take me to a place that I'm not able to be maintained. I need God to elevate me to the place that I'm sustained to be there. I need to get to a place in my life where I've got a little bit of stamina for the next level that God is calling me to. And I'm declaring that over your life, that you don't just get what you need, these temporary feel goods to just get to the next place, but you don't have what it takes to stay there. Seasons are purposeful. And so will you let God, in whatever season you find yourself in, God, what is the purpose? What is the character? What are you developing in me in this season? What are you developing through me in this season? What character traits are you instilling in me in this season? Here it is. What character traits are you breaking in this season for me? Seasons are purposeful. So whether a season is joyful, whether a season is difficult, whether a season is happy, whether a season is sad, whether a season feels like it's been depleting you, or whether a season feels like it's been nourishing you, understand, number one, that seasons are cyclical, and understand, number two, that seasons are purposeful. As much as it pains me to say this, there's even a purpose for our pain. There's even a purpose for our pain. And so, even in painful seasons, one of the things that we must remind ourselves of, number three, is that seasons are temporary. They're cyclical, seasons are purposeful, seasons are temporary. Seasons are temporary. This idea about a temporary season either ought to make you happy or it might even make you sad. This idea that seasons are temporary simply implies and is a reminder for us that no season lasts forever. No season lasts forever. Um, for some of the OGs tuning in, Michael Jordan is unable um, t- to play present day as he once played during the prime of his life. Some of our greatest artists, some of our greatest singers, I won't even start name dropping, but one just to name a few. But one comes to mind, um, where multi Grammy nominated, has won every award. In fact, many of her fans and supporters hail her as the queen. You may, if you know anything or have listened just to sound, you may can recall how a particular singer's sound has evolved over the years. And I don't just mean in style; I mean in sound. One particular singer that comes to mind, once she gave birth to her set of twins, once she began having children, her sound, her tone, her texture of her voice began to change. Why? Because seasons are temporary. You won't always perform at a peak level in a winter season of your life. You won't always perform as you did in your prime, the moment that you're now moving into the next phase in space in your life. You may hear some of the older saints that they don't remember things that they used to remember once upon a time. It don't come as quick no more. But why? Because seasons are temporary. There was a season now where an individual may have been in the prime of their life, but that season now has now shifted maybe to a more bleak season, a more laid back season, a more wise season. Seasons are temporary. Hear me tonight. Difficult seasons will end, and seasons of harvest won't last forever. The beautiful thing about a cyclical season, the beautiful thing about a purposeful season, a beautiful thing about a temporary season is that no season will last forever. Seasons are also unavoidable. Life is full of these unexpected twists and turns, these things that are beyond our control, these things that we can do nothing about. Sometimes we just gotta just pray and roll with the punches. Seasons again are unavoidable, but seasons also involve change. As we encounter different seasons, we'll encounter different things. The state of our job may be different in one season than it is in another. There may be a shift in the family dynamic between one season and another. You may sense a different personality or purpose even within yourself from one season to another. What you used to like, you no longer like. Who you used to like being around, maybe listen, they just ain't your judge no more. Seasons involve change. And that's the beautiful thing about God and the way that God has designed seasons is we don't know what to expect when we encounter a new season. We don't know what to expect when we encounter hardship. Why? Because we can't see the full picture. We can't see the beginning to the end, but God does. God does. And the beautiful thing that God has given us is this thing called faith. To trust the season and to trust the God of the season. God's divinity and control over life seasons ought not be something that oppresses us, but let it be something that we find comfort in. That no season is ever wasted. Nothing in any of our seasons is ever forgotten or a mistake by God, but it is all known to God. History isn't just this endless cycle, but it's God's story that we get to live out as it unfolds, revealing God's purpose for our lives. And so, hear me tonight, regardless of the season that you are in, I pray that you find strength to walk through the changing seasons in your life. I pray that you find bravery to endure and to walk with your head up with integrity and character, even if you may be walking through a season that feels like a valley. Understand that each and every season of your life, this current season that you were in, my God, this current season that you were in, it is shaping you. It is shaping your vision. It is giving you insight to God's purpose. And most importantly, it is getting you ready for the next season, the next shift and season of your life. Don't rush it. Don't rush. Don't rush God. Don't rush this season. And also don't quit on God in it. Galatians 6 and 9. We just talked about this on Sunday. Let us not get weary in well doing, for in due season you shall reap if you faint not. I don't know where you are, where you find yourself in this season of your life specifically, but I need you to know that God is with you in this season. God's birthing something in you, purposing something through you. And at the same time, releasing something to you. Come what may in this season, don't faint. You get to the next season simply by fainting not. Hang on in there. Download these Bible studies. Go back and listen to the last couple of weeks if you need to. Jot some notes down. Convert the audio to a manuscript so you've got the notes if you need to. Whatever you need to do, so that even in life's darkest seasons, even in life's wildest wilderness seasons, you know that no season lasts forever. Get what you need in it so that God can elevate you from it. God bless you. God loves you. Be good to yourself. Be good to somebody else. Set some stuff on fire.